everybody, my name is Lea. I'm currently the lead product manager at a company called Uptime. If you haven't heard of us yet, it's because we're a startup. We've been around for a couple of years. The app's been live for just above 1 year, actually, and we're in the education space. Our mission is to inspire people everywhere to learn, and the way we go about doing that is we take thousands of life lessons from the best courses, the best documentary, the best books, even from podcasts as well. And we change the format into what we call a hack. A hack is 5 minutes. It's a story format. You can read, you can listen, and you can watch at the same time, so it's very digestible. But as a startup, and as pretty much every organization out there, we have to grow. Growth is a super important part of the journey, both in user and in revenue, so we can become sustainable. But what we realized very early on is that there's so many different ways to approach growth, and we took the approach that we were going to focus on the product. We're actually going to build a great product that puts people needs first, and then we're going to communicate about it very efficiently. And we took the bet that that would be enough for growth to happen. And actually, that paid off. So here's how. Making that decision, one of the biggest impact was how we looked at our premium model. So most apps on the market, when you download them, when you register, or soon after you land, you see a paywall or a 7-day trial where you have to opt in. If you dismiss that paywall, then you get into a freemium model. That's usually the standard model. But that's kind of an odd thing. Like, we thought it was quite odd, because when is it in life where you actually have to commit to buy a product that you haven't even seen yet? You don't even know what it is about yet. And also, we thought that put quite a lot of pressure on marketing, right? Because if you do it that way, you force the decision-making to be very early on in the funnel. The user has to decide that your product is worth it for them. It's worth buying at a very early stage because they haven't even seen it yet. And, you know, there's quite a lot of marketers in the room today, and a lot of you do a really great job, and you work really hard at getting those people to the app. And to do so, what you do is that you sell them the best benefit of your product. You're basically telling them our product is a Ferrari, and then they come on the app, and they get a freemium version, and it's more like a Toyota or something. So we took the reverse approach to that. We decided that if you come on our app, and you don't want to subscribe, you want to try it around, we're going to let you do that without any opt-in necessary. So we give you a premium, we give you access to all the app, all the feature, all the content for free, without any opt-in. Because we did that, we needed to build a lot of things around it to make it work as well. And the three most important things that we had to do to make it work was those 3 points. The first one was to understand and optimize our activation funnel. The second one was to create a sense of scarcity. And the third one was to ensure that we have very, very efficient communication about it. If we look at the first step, understand and optimize your activation funnel, so we adopt a very traditional North Star concept. So what we've done is our data team, a lot of us spend a lot of time looking at the early behavior on the app. We look at the action people were doing, we look at the engagement, and how that was correlating with retention and with subscription. And we pretty much define what we call our activation funnel, which for us indicate that by the end of it, when you reach the aha moment, you are pretty much guaranteed that you're going to subscribe and you're going to stay on as a retained user. We can pretty much guarantee it. So a lot of the effort that we have to do is ensuring that people go through that activation funnel, that they reach that aha moment where they really go, OK, I get what this app does, I get how it can solve my problem, now it's in my choice to subscribe or not. And the way we went to optimize this funnel is the IAB testing. So we split it into 2 things. The first thing was, what is it that we can remove? What are all those barriers that sit between actually people landing on the application and people being able to subscribe and be retained and stay on? So we removed all of those barriers. And then the second thing was optimize what we still needed to have. So for example, this was our landing flow. We previously launched with all registration method, give people choice, they can decide how they want to register. And then we analyzed our data, and looking again at like what user wants, what user needs, we found out that the vast majority of users were only choosing one registration method. So on iOS, no surprise, it was continue with Apple, and on Android, continue with Google. And there was like way over 90% of users on each platform. So at that stage, we decided that we were going to make that journey much easier for the vast majority of people. So it's much easier for about 90% of users, and a little bit more difficult for 10%. But it actually worked. It worked really well, and we had a 5% increase of conversion on that step. All in all, recently, we ran over 45 ABs on this activation funnel, so it's constant, and it's a lot of them, and that resulted in a 27% increase of people reaching the aha moment, where we can tell for sure, we can predict this person is actually going to become a subscriber, and this person is going to become retained. The second thing we had to do is create a sense of scarcity. So it's really great to give them everything for free, and they can try the app, and they can get the feature and the content and get what's a benefit for them, but you still have to give them a little nudge so they actually want to stay on. So we do that by two things. The first thing is limited time. So we don't offer you the full app forever. You have 3 days to try it. And 3 days work because we found out that the majority of people go through the activation funnel within an hour. So realistically, 3 days is way enough time for you to make a decision if this product is for you or not. And the second thing we do is that we give them a really great offer. So if you actually have gone through the activation funnel at that stage, and you know what the product is about, you also have just 2 days to take on that offer to make your decision. So we kind of push you to make this decision today rather than tomorrow. The third thing we had to do is really ensure efficient communication. So when we first launched it, we didn't have notification, we didn't have email. The only communication about that offer was in-app, and it was terrible. It wasn't really great because we were getting hundreds of messages and hundreds of emails from users basically thinking we subscribed them without their permission. So asking us how to cancel, asking us when they were going to be charged, or they were very confused. So we spent a bit of time to ensure that it was actually very clear for people that we weren't going to charge them. There were no opt-in. That wasn't a subscription. That's not an in-app trial. It's just a free experience. And we also ensure that we used every single touch point to remind them that. So via notification, via email, via social, as well as multiple entry points in the application as well. Those had to be timely, they had to be consistent as well. But one of the other things we had to do as well is ensure that, even though we wanted to communicate about it quite a lot, we had to make sure we were respecting user preferences. So we built this granular notification flow, and we let people tell us, this is the medium I want you to use, and this is how I want to be communicated with, and we respected that. All in all, this resulted in about 90% less confusion, which means 90% less people asking us, what was happening, and actually people getting us positive feedback about the flow. This approach to premium had those specific results. So we had a 15% increase in registration, 27% in activation. Monthly retention almost increased by 20%, and this led to us doubling our monthly active users. It also led to an 8% increase in conversion rate to subscription, which means at that stage that the more people come to the app, the more people will become subscribers because we know where we're at. And that led to also an increase in lifetime value. So how we do that? It's actually very simple. We put in place a very simple methodology to ensure that we were listening to users and we were putting their needs first and always leading with the value. And it's 3 steps. The first is put context on big data. The second is actively seek user feedback, and the third one is A/B everything. If we look at put context on big data, obviously we're a digital business, we're an app, so we have lots of data. The app is very well tracked. We know exactly at what point people drop, we know the pain point, but we don't act on them. We don't just go, okay, there's a pain point here, let's just build something else. When we identify a problem or a potential issue in the flow, we actively seek user feedback for that specific problem. So we either do it via user testing. We run user testing all the time, ongoing. We have multiple ones going on weekly. That's run by the team that's working on the specific problem. Or we do it with custom flow in-app. So this is an example where we have a piece of content where people drop quite a lot, and we don't really know why. So we just build in a custom flow to know exactly what was happening at that point. Then we can build a hypothesis, then we can build an app and test it. Getting user feedback. Getting user feedback is quite easy, but you actually have to actively seek it. And not a lot of companies do that. So most companies out there use emails, marketing emails that have do not reply, which is kind of crazy because it's a very, very easy way to get your customer feedback, to get user telling you what's wrong, what's working, what's not working. So we don't do that. The other thing we do, though, is create a lot of point in-app for people to talk to us. We made it very, very, very easy for people to give us feedback. We have entry point all over the app, all over social, and we respond to every single person. There's an actual human being that's going to respond to every single person, even the one that just sent GIFs, which is a bit annoying. And once we get this user feedback, we centralize all the information. It's all put together, and it's prioritized. So this, for example, is our most requested features in the recent months. We actually went on and built most of that now. And when we go on to build a feature user requested, we then go back to that person, we let them know that we listened to them and we actually went to build a feature. And because of that, we're getting amazing feedback, like this person from India that think we're awesome, thank you. And this is a person that really loved the feature that basically we're requesting. Finally, you have to A/B test everything. So it's very nice to listen to people and actually want to solve their problem, but the reality is what people say and what people do, it just doesn't work. It doesn't match. A lot of people will say something and their behavior will be completely different, so you can't trust it. You can't take their word for the value. So the best way to actually validate everything is just A/B it. This is an example where we had very vocal users telling us that it was difficult for them to continue where they left off. So we went in and we built the whole thing in app to make it very easy for them to jump back in. But that failed miserably. We had a 26% decrease in engagement with our content, with all content in the app. And what we realized is that a handful of users actually wanted to jump back in, but the vast majority of people, if they dropped something, it's just because they didn't like it. So us pushing it, even further in the app and further in their face was having a negative result, which we could validate via A/B. So in conclusion, putting your customer first actually works. You can lead with the benefits. You can give them the full value of the product. But if you want to do so, you need to build things around it to make it work. So you need scarcity. You need to communicate very well about it as well. And the best way to understand people and know what they want is just ask them, is actively seeking feedback, mostly putting context on big data. So I should never take a decision unless you know why something's happening and not just what is happening. And finally, do not trust what people say. So you have to validate everything. You have to test it, and you have to make sure that with big data that their behavior match what they were saying. And that's it for me. Thank you very much.